Welcome to a new test and teardown video. This time it's a Grundig and H&B, the VS2 Universal UHF Converter. And this one is really weird and special. It's from about 1965. I found, of course, a Grundig manual with all their newest inventions from 1965, and this is exactly where they advertised this unit. So the idea is you can take your test picture generator that only got one fixed VHF channel output at 55 megahertz, and this input is then converted or mixed up to UHF band. So there's an oscillator and a mixer in this unit. And of course we'll be able to keep the modulation and everything on the output as well. And as far as I can see, this unit should contain one tube and 2 or 3 diodes, and probably capacitors and inductors and all sorts of stuff. So maybe we should just have a little look what is inside. So let's look a little bit inside this tiny little unit. And the first thing that I see is, of course, a missing tube. And it looks from this little dust marks that somebody did actually try and put in a tube here, so I definitely need to open and have a little deeper look. There is supposed to be one tube in here, the PC86B, and that is inside here exactly as it is supposed to be, and I think it is the right one. So that is good so far, but I really find it weird with the missing one. And oh yeah, you gotta see this. This whole tuning system here is just fantastic. So when you move the knob, look at that. So the scale, maybe I should get some more light in from more angles so we can see what we're doing here. Well, it is absolutely amazing. All this mechanics to solve this task. And if you see, there's a little soldering here. Can you see it's cracked? And there's some sort of a here we can see a mechanical hysteresis, and then it moves. So this, I think I want to add a little solder blob, but there's a reason why this is cracked. Look at the shaft, it's not straight. So it doesn't matter if you solder this, it will just crack again. And there isn't any this movable joint, and this whole thing here is bent, and that is the problem. And there's a little lamp back here, so that is also good. And a little fuse, and the fuse is used to change the mains voltage from 120 to 220. The good old standard, a little mains transformer. And that, I think, is of course the oscillator. I want to try and show a little bit more here. So of course this is the oscillator, and that will be the input. So the input goes in here. So input goes in here, the oscillator generates the output, and in here is where all the magic happens, where it's modulated, mixed, and so on. Oh, there's a nice little rectifier bridge. This does not look like original, does it? This mounting. Oh, we can also see some marking screw scratches like that. So this is probably not the original one. So it was repaired at one point. A little high voltage capacitor, and that resistor is maybe in series with this high voltage to filter it nice and fine. So yeah, I think we should definitely open the little shield boxes. I was able to find a manual, or like a Grundig sales sheet from 1965. And look at this fantastic black and white picture from 1965 showing this unit. And they also presents technical data. And here we can see, oh, it's all written in German. So I will now run this through a little AI translator, and then you will see here in English the technical spec sheet and all its specifications. Isn't that just wonderful? I love those translators to make everything nice and easy for you. So inside this oscillator, we find a very good reason why there isn't any tube up here, because there's nothing connected. So this is just a, they are using, of course, this tuner for something else. It's a nice mechanical construction, but for this product, they only need this little part of it. So here is a little piece of silvered, probably a copper or brass, and that will be the variable capacitor that tunes this resonator. And this is, of course, the filament. We got a little inductor down here that's filtering away high frequency from the filaments. But I think this one is a little bit interesting. Look at this inductor with just two little windings, and then there is a resistor to chassis. But here is a feed through, and this one here is touching. Oh, I think this is funny. It's touching this, the copper here. So that means this is a disabled system. So nothing here is working when this lid is removed. You need to have it mounted for this oscillator to work. So this is a little annoying. If you want to poke around, you can't. Oh, well, you just need to short this, of course, but it's just a little bit funny to see this. Why would you do that? And so the output is a little pickup here that just goes to our output coax. So I think I will just close this up again and hopefully get a good connection to this point, so it should oscillate. So now I wanted to go inside this little modulator box, and then I see something really wild and funny. Let's see if I can get a little picture here. It is, of course, completely out of focus as always. So I've got my little extra zoom lens. Can you see the little hair on the side of this box? Well, those are tin whiskers. Here we go. Tin whiskers. And they are like 2 or 3 millimeters long. So if they are outside of the box, they're also going to be, yeah, look at that, all the way around. They're also going to be inside, right? So inside this modulator box, we got the two inputs here and here. So there's a capacitor where it goes through, and then it goes to a little, probably impedance matching circuit. And then there is a balance, a single-ended to balance transformer. So now the signal is fed through this little low-pass filter here in balanced mode into the two diodes. So the other input comes here in the middle. So this is a balanced mixer, and the output of this balanced mixer is also in balanced mode. And therefore you have this little, oops, sorry about that, output transformer sort of system that makes it into a single-ended output. And also you can see a lot of tin whiskers. There is one in particular I really want to show you. So I took my little lens. Look at that. Here we go. It's yeah, here we go. Look at how long that one is. And this is the thing. It's insanely long. So normally I don't see tin whiskers going this far, but this is like 8 millimeters or something like that. So this definitely will short everything close by. So I need to give this a lot of compressed air to get this. Oh yeah, look at that. This is not super good. So after a lot of cleaning here in the RF mixer unit, I think that I'm ready for the first power up. So here I got a little spectrum analyzer, and I have adjusted the output for 600 megahertz. I can't find this annoying adapter. I spent the last hour trying to find it because I just think this is way too amateur-like. I just give up. I mean, we're not going for a calibrated test certificate here. I just want to see the peak and the modulation and all that. So bear with me and please don't comment on this annoying. It's terrible, I know, and that is just how it's going to be. So I think I'll put the center frequency for 600 megahertz. I mean, how bad can this be? So let's just say a span of 100 megahertz. So that is what we're looking at right now. And let's just try and power it up and see it will. So there's a nice little lamp here. And of course the tube needs to warm up a little bit before we should see anything at all. And it's using 12 watts at the moment, but we don't see anything. Why not? So maybe don't output anything if there isn't any input. That I did not expect. Let's just do a little bit of a frequency. I mean, can it be that I need to? Oh, look at that! I was a little bit outside of the scale. That is exactly what I thought. So here is now a 600 megahertz peak, and it is minus 30 because I have a 10 dB attenuator mounted on my spectrum analyzer. As always, we put an attenuator on the spectrum analyzer, so that is a nice pulse, but of course it's completely way out of scale. That is annoying. I was hoping for 600. So, and here is of course, yeah, well, so anyway, we can see that it's, yeah, easily adjustable. Great. So how is this going to look when I put in some modulation? That will be the next little experiment. So here is the output. Again, the frequency is still a little bit wrong, and we have 600 megahertz. But look at the amplitude, because I am now inputting 55 megahertz, but with AM modulation. I'm using a very slow modulation frequency, obviously, but this just shows this. And if I turn off the input, so this is what happens when I input 55 megahertz. I can control this amplitude, but I think I can only control it up. Look at that. Yeah, see, it only controls up. And I got 1 volt RMS input. Let's try and give it a lot more. Oh, I cannot give it so much more. I can give it, okay, 1.6 volts. So you need to give it quite a lot of input. I'll try and, yeah, see, this is 100 millivolt. You can barely see the modulation. So this unit here expects probably just a whole volt. 2 or 3 volts peak like that, to give me AM modulation. And it is not really affected by the frequency so much. So this is 55 megahertz, 56, 57. So you see, it isn't. Oh yeah, here we go. Now we can generate. I'll turn down the frequency now for 30 megahertz. So this is of course my upper and my lower. So I also mix my 30 megahertz, and if I dial this down to 10, for example, see? Here we go. So this is 10 plus minus 10. On the let's turn off the modulation so it's easier to see. Hello, like that. So now we got a constant 10 megahertz to my generated frequency here. And that is of course also very useful for all sorts of experiments. And we can see we have 10 megahertz per division here because I have a 10 megahertz span. So yeah, I definitely think this cool old unit works. And that is what I wanted to show in this video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you soon again. Bye bye.